So here's the Moodle website, and we're going to be using the PuTTY software and a driver for connecting the microchip to your laptop or PC. You're going to need to download the PuTTY installer and the USB connector Windows driver and install them. Instructions are in Lesson 7. So this is the screen that comes up when you download and run the installer. So we're going to run the PuTTY installer. We get this screen, so we continue. All the default choices are great. You might want to have a desktop icon for PuTTY. Click, keep going, let it install. And if you want, you can view the README, but we're finished right now. When you've downloaded the USB connector driver, it's actually a zip file, so if you find where you've downloaded it to and open it, you'll see two files here. It depends on which version of Windows you are. If you choose the wrong one, like this is for earlier versions, and try and run it, it'll say if you're running Windows 7 that you've got the wrong version. So that's okay, and let's install this one. Again, we run it, we get something like this, and you just click next, I accept, next, and it finished very quickly here because it's reinstalling it for me. And we're done. That's it. Hi, this is a breadboard with our USB connector right here. When we plug this into a USB port on your computer that has the proper software, we should be able to use this chip over here to communicate with your laptop or PC using PuTTY. Now, we've already talked about using printf, and we had a file called configure USART. USART is a module that's part of this chip, and it knows how to communicate. If we tell it to use printf, it knows how to send a text string out through a port. Now there's two pins on this port that we're going to need to know. They're TX for transmit and RX for receive. Over here on this connector, you're not going to be able to see it here, but if you look very carefully, you will see in tiny letters RX, TX, and ground up here. And we're going to have to connect RX from the chip to TX of the connector, and the TX pin here to the RX pin of the connector. To do that, we're going to need to do a little bit of wire fitting, and I'll show you that in 1 second. Hi. In your kit, in your toolkit, you have different color wires. I don't know how well you can see them. These are for making connections on your breadboard. And the first thing you have to do is you have to cut them to length. This little pliers that you have here, move them back so you can see it easily, is a combination of wire cutter and wire stripper. This little screw here can be moved up or down to control the size of the hole you make. But that's not even really that important to you. With a bit of practice, you'll be able to strip the ends off wires fairly easy. So this is a copper wire with a plastic coating, and we need to strip a little bit of the end off. We're going to connect the RX and TX pins of the computer chip to the USB connector, so we need to make sure we get about the right length. So you put them down, eyeball how long you want, and you just go snip. You need about a centimeter of connector to plug into the breadboard. So you just go to the end, right, like this, and you rotate a bit, and it comes off. I did that one too hard, so let's see if you can see that. It's not quite long enough. So try it again, a little more gently. Ah, success. Do it to the other end. Yay, I'm getting better with practice. So will you. Same thing with the black wire. You don't have to use different color wires, but it makes it a lot easier to understand your circuit if you use two different wires. Okay. Here I'm using black and red, but you could use white and blue, whatever colors you have. And again, like we said, we're going to connect the wires from the TX pin to the RX pin and the RX to the TX. They have to be different, right? What's transmit for one object is receive for the other. Now if you're going to wire the microchip, it's really important that you look at this diagram right here. This is what tells you which pins are which. We're looking for RX and TX, and those are right here. So here's RX, here's TX. It's pin 17, or the third up from the bottom. This is the bottom because this little notch in your pin tells you that that's the top. If you look at your actual breadboard and chip, you see there's a little notch up here. So this one is TX, and pin 18, the fourth one up, is RX. We need to remember that. Keep that in mind when we do the next step. Here's a blow-up of the picture of that USB connector at the end, just to give you a little help to identify the buttons. Here's the RX pin. Here's the TX pin. Those are the ones that we connect to the pins on the chip. Okay, so now that I have the wires, I'm going to try and connect them up. I'm going to take this red wire and put it into pin 17. That was the TX, and I'm going to turn it around and find the RX pin in here and just insert it gently. My wire is a little too big for this. If I wanted, I could trim it down or just give it a little squeeze to make it a little neater. And then I take the black wire, put it into the RX pin, and come down and install this into the TX pin, like so, or hard for you to see, like so. No, I can't see it. I hope you can see it. Again, the wires are too long. I could trim them better. These will, because they're really out too far, easy for you to pull them out. So trimming them would be a good idea. So get this back up so I can see it a little. You can see it. Okay, so the USB connector has been wired to the chip. This connector does two things besides connect to the USB so you can talk to the PC. It also supplies the power. Now in your box you'll have a black cable that you can plug into your laptop or PC, USB port, and do the same here. Right? Notice the little light telling you that it's getting power. That means your chip is getting power too. There will probably be a message pop up on your computer screen, particularly if you've forgotten the second step, which was installing the driver for this connector here on your laptop. Let's have a look at that message. If you plug in the USB connector between to your PC or laptop, you're going to get, probably right now, get a message like this. saying that the USB to UART bridge controller driver wasn't found. So we're going to need to install that if you haven't done that already. Okay, so now we've taken the breadboard and connected the USB connector to the laptop or PC using your USB cable. We want to make sure it's connected right. So we come up to the computer icon and click Properties. You want to look at the Device Manager, and in Device Manager come down here. It'll say Silicon Labs. That tells you that you properly have it connected. Notice it also says COM3. That's the port that PuTTY needs to use, so write that down. You're using COM3.